one thing I wanted to show you about groups is that when you left click on Zoom Extents, it does the one window. And if you right click on it, it does all of them, which is kind of handy to get everything back in view. There's another handy thing in here when you're working on a larger model. It's a similar function. Let me ungroup everything here so that I can select just one item. And there's a command called Zoom Selected. So if you just select that one item, and I could change to the top view and say Zoom Selected here. Since I selected it in perspective, it's selected in the model, and then I can change views and then do the Zoom Selected to find out where it is in the other view. If you have a very large cluttered model, that can come in handy. And similar to the Zoom All or the Fit All, you can right click here and it'll zoom on that part in every viewport. So we'll go back to the full view. But the thing I wanted to show you also was with groups, they can be nested. So if I take all of the lower deck here and create a group, and I take all of these upper deck items and create a group, I've got two separate ones. I can grab them both, create another group, and now they select as a unit. But if I ungroup them, it comes back one level. And then I can just ungroup that one, and I'll hide this one again. And we would do the exact same thing on these decks that we did up above. And we can use that same trick with just extracting the curve, but it's already beyond the end of my history there. So we'll have to go back into duplicate edge here and here. And then we can turn off surfaces. And again, we'll just get rid of these, some points that would cause little small slivers of triangles at the ends. And take off 3 there. And at the other end, we can do one there. If I grab all of these curves, it's going to do the aft portion here, but I selected the curves and not the points. If I were to make a mesh from these, see, you don't get exactly what you're expecting. Had I had everything selected, points and curves, you wind up with a very odd shaped mesh. So that's why you want to make sure you're only selecting the points. So we can get rid of these edge curves now. And select them all, check the direction. They're all in. So we can mark curve start. So we'll get it there. And select all the points. Now I could probably make the mesh here and it would make one large mesh and we just delete the extras that are created in the middle. Let's see what happens there. So we wound up with a decent looking mesh forward and aft, and we just have this extra in the middle. So we could keep this, quadrangulate it, and then simply use the mesh delete, get rid of those extras. This creates what Rhino refers to as a disjoint mesh, because you'll see that even though we separated them, we deleted, made a clean break in the center. If I select one, it's selected as a unit. While they're not connected, they are still the same mesh. And there is a command to fix that, where you can say split disjoint mesh under the mesh repair tools. And you can see, split one mesh into 2 meshes. And now you have separate meshes that can be operated on independently. It doesn't really affect anything. It won't really affect anything in terms of writing out the polygon file and pulling it into Maestro, but it's just something to know about, that you can wind up with those disjoint meshes and you select one, and it could be another part of the model that you're not looking at where it gets selected, because they can be joined as well. If you happen to accidentally forget something else was selected and you were trying to join 2 meshes over here and you had another one selected, if I say join, they become one open disjoint mesh. So I'll just hit Control Z to undo that. And we are almost done with all of our decks. There's just one more. And it's the exact same process. We go into surfaces. Duplicate that edge just as a reference. And we'll delete. Plenty each end. We just want something reasonable that we can run for purposes of the demo. And we can get rid of that exterior reference curve. We'll do the exact same thing. We select all of our points here, check the direction of the curves so we know whether to mark the start or the end. And we will come in and mark curve start. This curve was too short. It didn't have even the first point and didn't get selected when I did the crossing window. So I could just manually put a point on the end. And we'll turn on surfaces to mark the end of that deck, because we will need a node to tie into the hull with the stem. Select all our points, create our mesh, convert it to quads, and it doesn't look like there are any that we need to manually merge. So we can select the points and delete them, and delete them, and now we have all of our deck meshes. So we can turn these back on. Even though this says, select objects to show, you can select them graphically, or I can still use the commands. If I type select mesh, it'll grab all the visible meshes that are available for selection. And now I have all of my decks done.